To me, Global Reach Out is inspiring.
It's connecting with God, reaching out to the world, and impacting lives.
The stories that shared is so personal and it deeply impacted me.
Global Reach Out to me is reach out to the truth.
Connecting hearts, connecting lives. You're listening to Global Reach Out.
To me, Global Reach Out is inspiring.
It's connecting with God, reaching out to the world, and impacting lives.
The stories that shared is so personal and it deeply impacted me.
Global Reach Out to me is reach out to the truth.
Connecting hearts, connecting lives. You're listening to Global Reach Out.
Hello friends, a very warm welcome to Global Reach Out. And thank you for staying with us on this series, Oasis of God's Grace.
Episode 8, The Good Samaritan, Luke 10:25-37. A lawyer, an expert in religious law, asked Jesus, "Who is my neighbor?" Jesus replied with an illustration. A Jewish man was traveling from Jerusalem to Jericho when he was laid wait by robbers. They took his money, stripped him, beat him, and left him half dead by the roadside. Along came a Jewish priest who saw the wounded man but did nothing to help. Instead, he crossed over to the other side and bypassed him. Then came a Levite, a temple assistant, who also saw the wounded man. He walked over to him and looked at him and did nothing to help and also passed by him. Later came a Samaritan who is despised by the Jews. When he saw the wounded man, he was moved with compassion. He knelt beside him, soothed his wounds with medicine, and bandaged him. He put the wounded man on his donkeys and took him to an inn. The next day, he handed the innkeeper 2 pieces of silver to take care of the wounded man. If that was not enough, he will pay the difference the next time. Jesus asked the lawyer, "Who amongst them is a neighbor, the Jewish priest, Levite, or the Samaritan?" The lawyer replied, "The one who showed mercy." Then Jesus said, "Go and do the same." The Samaritan was a model of grace. He need not and should not have helped the wounded man, a Jewish man, because traditionally the Jews looked down on the Samaritans. He had good reasons for not helping that man. Instead, he soothed and bandaged the man's wound. He even went the extra mile by sending the man to the inn and caring for him. What a beautiful display of action in grace. The waiting father, Luke chapter 15, 11-31. The prodigal son, or we can call it the prodigal father. In Luke chapter 15 is a familiar story. Jesus told this story when Pharisees and scribes, the teachers of religious laws, complained that he was associating with tax collectors and notorious sinners who were despised by people. Interestingly, it was the righteous leaders and not the common people who were unhappy with the company Jesus kept. Does this ring a bell today? In any case, Jesus began to tell a story. A man had 2 sons. One day, the younger son told the father that he wanted the share of his inheritance, although the father was still alive. His father agreed to his request, although the family inheritance is usually given after the parent's death. So he divided the inheritance between the 2 sons and gave the younger son his share. It is important to note that both sons received the inheritance. A few days later, the younger son packed his belongings, left for a distant land. Perhaps the father asked the younger son to reconsider his decision not to leave the home, or the father needed time to raise the well. In either case, the younger son was determined to leave home. The younger son squandered all the money on while leaving. He was broke. A great famine swept across the land and he began to starve. He was so desperate for food that he even persuaded the local farmers to hire him to look after the pigs. What a change of destiny from a son to a servant. So hungry was the younger son that the very food he fed the pigs, it looked so delicious to him. Anyway, no one gave him any food. So he had to do what he did. We are told when he finally came to his senses, not surprising when you think of the environment, he thought, at home even the hired men have food enough to eat, and I am dying of hunger. He decided to go home and face the music. He expected to see a furious father chiding him. I told you so. He even made up his mind to say this, Father, I have sinned against heaven and you, and I'm no longer worthy of being called your son. Please take me as a hired man. The younger son felt so unworthy of his father's love because of what he had done. He felt he deserved to be treated not as a son, but as a servant, because he also sinned against God. So he went home. The father saw the younger son coming from afar. Overcome with love, the father ran to the son, embraced him, kissed him. And not only that, the son was so touched by the father's gesture that he said, Father, I have sinned against both heaven and you, and I'm no longer worthy of being called your son. Before the son could finish his sentence, he wanted to say, the father interrupted him and told the servant to do 5 things. 1, bring him the finest robe in the house. His clothes must have been tattered and torn. 2, put a ring on his finger. 3, get sandals for his feet. 4, kill the fattest calf. Finally, hold a party to celebrate. The father was overjoyed and called for a celebration, for the son was considered dead when he left home, but now he has returned and is alive. Once he was lost, but now he was found. We are told in Luke chapter 15:24, and the party began. I like that. What a party it must have been. The father did not hear his younger son confess or promise good behavior before he embraced him. What he offered was instant forgiveness with no strings attached. Instead of a rebuke, he received a hug. Instead of punishment, he received forgiveness. Instead of a lecture, he received assurance. Instead of being driven away, he received the finest robe. In a word, he did not get what he deserved. Rebuke or lecture, I told you so, but he got what he did not deserve. Embrace, hug, finest robe, a ring on his finger, and sandals on his feet, and a party. Why? It's because of grace. When the son made his willful choice to go away, it was as though the son was dead. Now that he has returned, he was considered alive. The younger son expected the worst. He could have been disowned. He did not expect to pacify his father. So he prepared for the worst. He told the father what he deserved for the rebellion. He did not expect the gracious response of his father. Even in his wildest imagination, he would have never thought his father was waiting for him to return. He received his father's extravagant grace. The father gave him what he needed and not what he deserved. The father demonstrated grace in the following ways. 1, come rain or shine, the father was waiting every day for him to return. 2, when the father saw him, he ran towards his dirty, smelly son, embraced him and kissed him. 3, the father did not punish the son, neither did he pile guilt on him by saying, I told you so. What lessons have you learned? Stay in the room and don't come out for 3 days, or reflect what you have doing. He did nothing of that. 4, he gave the son the finest robe. He put a ring on his finger and sandals to wear. Finally, to top it out, the father threw a welcome party. It does not make sense, does it? But that's grace. Grace does not make sense from a human standpoint. But that is what grace is all about. It has to do with giving people what they do not deserve, but what they need. Truly, grace transforms people, as the story of the prodigal son so beautifully illustrates. There is power in grace. Men shall find grace, and grace not find means that finds her way. The speediest of thy winged messengers to visit all thy creatures and to all comes unprevented, unimplored, unsought, happy for men so coming.
We will close here today. Please stay tuned with Global Reach Out, and let's meet again next week. Goodbye.
The program is proudly presented by Global Reach Out. We welcome you to share our live enriching webcasts with family and friends through our website, global-reachout.org. Let's reach out to bless more lives together. The program is proudly presented by Global Reach Out. We welcome you to share our live enriching webcasts with family and friends through our website, global-reachout.org. Let's reach out to bless more lives together.